Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Jonny Skywatcher Live. This is uh, this is my YouTube channel. I am Jonny Skywatcher. I kind of messed that beginning up. Whatever. Let's keep going. So, if you're not familiar with my YouTube channel, let's face it, if somehow magically you are seeing this, you probably are not familiar with my YouTube channel. I like to talk about movies, video games, pretty much sometimes random stuff. And this is the show where I like to do that. And this is sort of just a project I'm doing for myself because I'm currently not working and I have a lot of time on my hand and it gives me something to do. And it's been a lot of fun learning live streaming and using something I can't remember the program I'm using, OBS Studio, and learning how to do all this stuff. Well, I mean, I've done certain things like this before, not really using this exact equipment and things. I at my job, well, I was gonna say my previous job. Hopefully I get to go back. Maybe we'll find out in the future. Doing audiovisual for a corporation and involved a lot of Zoom meetings and then also Zoom webinars and things of that nature. So it's related to this, but this is kind of a complete different ball game at the same time. I'm gonna tilt this camera down, and then also it's different just doing it all by yourself because sometimes I run into issues and there's no one behind the camera or anywhere to test audio and to make sure it's working. It just has to be me. So hopefully it's working. I'm gonna trust that it works because I see the little bar moving around, and I think we are ready to start. So today I'm going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 Showcase, which I think was just a couple hours ago. I was watching it, and they had some interesting things. So I'm more of a Nintendo gamer, but I do keep up with gaming news, and so I watch this. I mean, it's not, at least when it comes to a lot of the games on the PlayStation 5, it's not that I wouldn't play it. It's more of that I can't afford two systems. You know, I went for years without playing any home console. I didn't get a Wii or a Nintendo Wii U. I skipped from GameCube when I I was still in high school when we got a GameCube, and then to getting a Nintendo Switch a year or two ago. So yeah, it's kind of a big jump. In between those years, I did have the handheld systems that Nintendo put out. I got a DS and then DSi and then the Nintendo 3DS. So I've been gaming, throughout the years. I just haven't been gaming on home consoles that much. We did, when I was younger, have a PlayStation PS2, and I remember playing a lot of Final Fantasy. That was the main, actually, mostly just Final Fantasy. Now that I think about it, there were some other games I played a little bit of. There was Dark Cloud, which I remember was good, but mostly on a lot of the games that I think are popular with PlayStation, I'm not as big a fan of. Though if I did have a PlayStation 4, there are some games I would totally pick up, like God of War looked really interesting, Spider-Man definitely. But anyway, let's get on to this this news. So I think they announced the price point, which they hadn't exactly. I don't think they said what the price was. So turns out it's going to be $500 for the main version, and then there's a digital edition which doesn't have anything for discs or all. Obviously, it's just digital, which is going to be a little cheaper at $400. I $500 is a lot. I mean, especially coming from me that I got the Nintendo Switch for 300. I'm curious to see if Nintendo, if the rumors are true and we get a Nintendo Switch Pro or something, what their pricing point will be. And because the main Nintendo Switch right now is, I believe it's still $300. The Nintendo Switch Lite is cheaper. I can't remember what it is, $250, I think. I might be wrong. And so what would the Pro be? Would they decrease the price of the regular, or just keep it the same and then make the Pro either 350 or even 400? I guess we'll have to see. But if it was 400, it'd be the same as the PS5 digital version. So this is just coming from PlayStation blog, and it couldn't find like a great source. So I think they announced. I don't know if there were any big announcements. I think most of this stuff was already shown before, or it was known about, even if we haven't seen a trailer for it yet. And they also announced a date, November 12th. In the US, Japan, Canada, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea. And then November 19th. And I believe that's going to be just a couple days after the Xbox One X S comes out, whatever it is. They're getting really confusing with the Xbox names. I mean, PlayStation at least is just it's the fifth one, PS5. Xbox, you have Xbox One Series X or something. I don't know. I don't understand. Anyway, there were a couple interesting trailers that were included. Final Fantasy 16, which I think we knew they were working on, but we hadn't seen anything yet. I mean, of course they're going to make another Final Fantasy game. When I was watching this, I actually was a little surprised. I couldn't tell what kind of Final Fantasy game this was. I didn't get a chance, obviously, like I said before. I don't own a PS4, so I haven't played Final Fantasy 15. But for a moment, I thought, is this like a spin-off game to that, or related to that? Because it has a very similar art style, I think. So, especially when they show the little dog. I don't know. But I guess it's going to be its own thing. I guess, yeah, it is more medieval clothing-ish, I guess. Now that I'm looking at it a second time. I guess it isn't as modern. I wasn't really fully paying attention. Well, I thought it might have been maybe in the game's past or whatever. But I guess it's going to be its own thing. It's looking very single player. Yeah, in most of the shots. And the select few gameplay there is. I mean, most of it is cinematics. But there's some shots of it that look like gameplay, like this. And that just looks like a single player action adventure game. It doesn't really look like Final Fantasy. I mean, the series has kind of been going that direction more and more with each entry. Final Fantasy, especially going from like Final Fantasy 13 to Final Fantasy 15, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the most like just an action adventure, because in all the sort of gameplay footage that you can see, it doesn't look like they're. I'm just gonna slow this down a little bit. It doesn't look like there is any party members. It looks like just one person. Now that could be just for the trailer. It could be totally different once they show more, and I don't think they even reveal a date, a year for this. So this could be 2021, 2022, who knows. especially the way Square sometimes delays their games. You know, for all we know, Square might restart development again, change course like they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it looks pretty interesting. I was actually a little surprised that was Final Fantasy 16. Wasn't sure because I don't know. It just looks very similar art wise. Though we've had like similar Final Fantasies. I just kind of prefer them when they have their own unique design and look. And aside from like the actual costumes and clothing and everything looks unique, but the graphical design doesn't, the art design doesn't look that much different. And then also the other one I found really interesting was this Hogwarts Legacy. Let's see. So it's gonna be, it looks like a action adventure game that takes place in Hogwarts, and you get I think you get to make your own character and play in Hogwarts, which is really cool. And then it's also during a different time period, so we don't have to be going through the same old movie stuff. It says it's in the 1800s. I think in the trailer they said the late 1800s, which is also, I was thinking right before I started, is there a possibility we see Dumbledore? Because wasn't he, I think the time he was in Hogwarts would have been sometime in the 1800s, I believe. Because in the books, he's over 100 years old. And so he would have gone to school before the 1890s. Before then. I mean, who, or around then? I don't know. So let me see. Is there, did it have the trailer attached to this? Oh, there it goes. But aside from just looking really good graphically, and yeah, I believe it says, it doesn't say, it says late 1800s, which I found a little weird. Just on a weird side note, why say late 1800s? It just, when you say 1800s, I don't know. I feel like you should just put a date on it, but maybe they don't want to be specific. But yeah, it looks really good, and certainly looking forward to it. I think that the idea of putting it into a time period we haven't seen is really smart because it allows them to make all new original characters. You know, probably there will be a few of them that are related to some of the characters we know, but you can make just new characters we don't, especially when it comes to the professors. And it looks like they're doing, you know, all new magical creatures and all sorts of stuff we haven't seen, as well as expanding it. It looks like it's going to go beyond just Hogwarts, and you're going to be able to see other parts of the world. And I'm really interested to see what kind of gameplay this has. Especially is if I'm assuming, I don't know, is this going to be open world to some extent? We'll have to see. Anyway, it looks very, very interesting. And I think those were the big things that I was interested in anyway from the show. Also, they showed off more Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. The gameplay, it looked like a lot of cutscene, even though they said they were showing like gameplay. It's a lot of quick time stuff. I didn't play the originals, the first Spider-Man, so I can't really say if that's reflective of what the first game was like or not. But it certainly looks interesting to watch. And because it's Miles Morales, he does have some abilities that Peter Parker doesn't have, so they get to play around with that. He has sort of that electric shock thing, and then also the invisibility, well, camouflage technically, I think. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with this game. Especially, I was thinking about the character, if they're going to do anything interesting with the character of Miles Morales, because I know that's usually a common complaint about the character so far, in that he, outside of Spider-Man, Enter the Spider-Verse, not a lot has been done with Miles Morales as a character. He's sort of just a good kid, and that's it. So hopefully they're able to give him some more character in this game, other than he, he he's a good guy, and he's got spider powers. Anyway, what do you, if you're watching this, what do you think? What did you think? Did you watch the PS5 showcase? Are you excited for PlayStation 5? Are you getting one? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like the video. All that good stuff. Okay. Awkward transition. Awkward transition. Awkward transition. Okay, moving on. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Okay. So, this was talked about, I believe, in Nintendo's recent, they had a management thing or management briefing. It wasn't really a big public event or anything, but they announced that they are on track for a CG animated Super Mario movie coming in 2022. So we already knew about this because Nintendo hadn't already announced that they were partnering with, where is this, Illumination, in order to do this movie. And so far, it appears everything is moving ahead smoothly. They're saying 2022. They're saying everything's going well, and I believe they also are looking forward to other projects, which may be a sign of confidence in Nintendo, considering that they got pretty what's the right word? They got a little shy after their first movie attempt, which, if you're not familiar with it, was Super Mario Bros. And it was 1993. It bombed. It was a critical failure, and yeah, it was not well loved. And I think that's why it's taken Nintendo so long to get back into the business of movies. And one of the things that I think has been a little encouraging for them is that Detective Pikachu, even though it wasn't a huge blockbuster, did reasonably well and was critically fairly well received. So I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm a little concerned about it being with Illumination, considering their track record isn't always the best. Some of their movies are a little hit and miss. Yes, I'm thinking, like, especially Minions. They've kind of driven some things into the ground, but there's definitely potential there. And I think the biggest thing is how they approach Super Mario. If you just approach Super Mario the way they have in the past, I don't think it's going to necessarily be that good. But I think it has the potential. And the biggest thing is, I don't know, I think you do need to, in the movies, avoid the Mario talking too much. I think you can have him talking a little bit. And I think if you look at the cutscenes and the animation in Luigi's Mansion 3, actually, as some of the best. And if you can take that sort of cartoon energy and just translate it into a film, which I think it'll be a little challenging, just time-wise. Because honestly, I think animated shorts would be better. But maybe make a big film and then have animated shorts to go along with it. We'll see. Personally, if I were in charge of adapting like a Super Mario franchise, I think I would go more of animated shorts. and because then you can sort of get away with just telling very small stories that you don't need lots of dialogue for, but hopefully they figure a way to make it work. And hopefully they don't do something dumb like bringing Mario into the real world, because that's one plot line that we've seen so many times already, and I don't think we don't need to see it again. We just don't need to see it. And I think that's part of the issue with adapting Mario, is that the story is really simple. It's not much of a story. It's just there to facilitate gameplay. And that's one of the things that in the entire series, famously, its creator, why can't I think of his name? Miyamoto. So sorry if I got that wrong. Shigeru Miyamoto is known for basically saying you don't need a story, right? And even though he's not even really, I think, producing like the Super Mario games directly that much anymore. He has been, but behind the scenes and been a big influence on them, and he's always been pushing to like, don't worry about the story that much. You can just like start it with just, Peach gets kidnapped, and that's why a lot of even current Mario games have started out that way. Super Mario 3, even like some semi recently, Super Mario 3D Land just starts with Peach getting kidnapped. So that does leave a challenge to the screenwriter, I think, to sort of find a story that works with this, because if you're just trying to adapt what's in the video game, that's not much. It's just Peach gets kidnapped by Bowser and then Mario goes world to world. That works in a video game, but it doesn't really work in a movie. You need something more than that. And I don't think just watching Mario go from world to world and meet different characters really works for a movie. You could maybe adapt that sort of structure to a TV show, but I don't think that's what they want. And especially if you did that route, Peach wouldn't really be a main character, and then you're just limited to Mario and Luigi and other like side characters they run into along the way. And I don't think they're going to do that. I would think probably you're going to see, if I were to let's venture into speculation about what kind of story I think you'll probably see in a Super Mario movie. I don't think you're going to see the normal Super Mario story from the video games. They're going to do something different. Maybe something like you see in some of the games, like the spin-off games, like Super Mario RPG, something where a different character comes in and threatens the Mushroom Kingdom, right? Bowser, I don't think, will be the main villain. He'll probably be one of the characters in the game. I said game. He'll probably be one of the characters in the movie. It could be something meta. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they go for something meta. They have an outside character that's not even like a video game coming in and destroying everything. They've done similar sort of storylines in the games. Even the recent Paper Mario game had the Origami King coming in, sort of this somewhat outside force coming in and threatening the entire Mushroom Kingdom. So I wouldn't be surprised by that. So what do you think about Super Mario getting a movie? Are you excited for it? Are you worried about it? Oh, sorry, excuse me. Let me know in the comments below, and we will move on to the last thing I'm going to talk about. I didn't have as much to talk about today, so I'm just going to take a look at. Let's just take a look at Box Office Mojo to sort of look at what is going on so far with the box office. This isn't a box office show, so I won't get too in depth, but did want to take a look. You'll notice in the latest dailies, we don't have any information for Tenet because, as I mentioned in an earlier show, Warner Brothers isn't giving out that information. So you click on Tenet, you just get information from the weekends. So its box office still hasn't been updated. It's still 29.5 million domestic, which includes Canada. I have a question. I say to no one because no one is here. If you're in the comment, if you're watching later, which I don't think anyone's watching now. If you're watching later, do domestic grosses usually include Canada? Is that a normal thing, or are they just trying to buff up the numbers and make it look bigger? Because yeah, that's one of the things they said for the initial weekend. They said 20.2 million, and then we found out somewhat more recently that it was probably more like 9 million, because they were including all the weekday previews and everything else like that. But even that, I don't know if that's like that 9 million was including Canada as well. So what was the US only? In the I just want to take a look at, let's look at a different movie in a different year, long in the way before. So I just want to see if it lists Canada. No. Canada does not get listed. If we go to international, we don't see Canada listed. So I think they just normally look at Canada and the US as as domestic. Okay, good to know. The New Mutants is still not pulling in huge numbers. They're already pulling in under 1 million. Let's see, they're at 29, inching their way to 30 million, which is not good. And I think Disney knew what they were doing. They were kind of just throwing it under the bus. And then if we look at international, you have, this is last weekend. Mulan was number 1, but only at 23,800,000. Tenet. And this was interesting because I saw a lot of people talking about how this was actually pretty bad. And a lot of people were saying, why did Mulan bomb in China, and what went wrong? Because Disney basically pandered to the Chinese audience, right? I think there's several things going on. For one, people usually don't like being pandered to if you try to pander too much. And I think I watched a really, really excellent video, which I think I might link in the comments below after I finish this. But it was this person going through the movie, a review from a Chinese woman explaining what was wrong with it. And she had some really interesting things to say that I hadn't really thought about. I'm not Chinese, so I don't know all the background. And yes, there were a lot of inaccuracies and certain things, and just the way it was thinking, that it's not surprising from a movie that's written entirely by white guys. Or I don't know if it was all white guys, but apparently there were no like Asian writers or anything involved. You know, they had Chinese actors, but they apparently didn't bother to try to get a Chinese director or anything like that. Let's not get crazy here. So you have that. And then, like I've said in the past, they have their own movies. You know, they even have their own adaptations of Mulan. And China did not like the animated Mulan movie, so they don't have that nostalgia, which, let's face it, that's what these live action remakes are kind of really booking on. Even with Mulan, where they changed it and they didn't put in the songs, and they didn't play out to the nostalgia factor as much. A large part of that, of putting the Mulan and that font and Disney saying Disney Mulan, is Disney banking on nostalgia, trying to get people to watch it. And China does not have that nostalgia. So that's another factor for why this wasn't as big. But I don't think this was as astonishingly low as people are saying. You know, look at, so if you go back a week, Tenet came out. It was number 2 at the box office in China in its first week, and it made 29.8 million. So that's like 30 million versus Mulan's 23 million. So the Tenet made more, but it didn't make astonishingly more. It didn't make double. And sure, when you're talking about like low numbers like that, you know, 7 million more can like is a bigger percentage more because it's smaller. But look at the if you go back a couple weeks, not that one, you have the 800. According to Box Office Mojo, pulled in 161 million. So you already have movies in China coming out and making over $100 million. So I would say both Tenet and Mulan did not do that well. You know, and it's to be seen how well it does like in a second or third weekend. I think Tenet made 10.3 million, which is probably not that bad of drop off for China, because China does tend to drop off even more quickly than the North American box office. But I wouldn't, I don't know. I think it's a little premature to say it completely bombed. Yes, it didn't do well in China, but compared to how other movies are doing, I don't know. And here's the thing, I don't think anybody was saying Tenet completely bombed, because it didn't make that much money either. 30 million versus 23 million. It's a little bit more, but sure, it made 10.3 million. And here's the thing, I think there's a possibility that Mulan does even worse in its second week. I think there's a possibility it doesn't even make 10 million in its second weekend like Tenet did. And then I would think then you can say it pretty much bombed. But until you at least get that second weekend, I don't know. And my bigger thing, it's not so much of people saying that Mulan bombed. It's just, why don't they say that about Tenet? I don't think anybody was saying that about Tenet in China. I mean, mostly they're just looking at that figure, like the 150 million, right? Worldwide. I mean, it's sort of the problem of like just picking your figures where you want to. I mean, when it comes to Mulan, the bigger issue is we don't know all the figures. And oh, hey, Cappy Plays. And totally got off track. It's fine. So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with Mulan in the box office. And yeah, do you think, in your opinion, did Mulan bomb in China? Let me know in the comments below. And I think we have pretty much reached the end of the show. Let me check. Yep, I don't have anything else to say. So, let us repeat the YouTube mantra. Please like, comment, and subscribe. But honestly, if you watch the end of this video in the future or right now, just thank you for watching. And you know, make sure to go throughout your entire house, turn on every single piece of device that is capable of streaming. Your laptop, your phone, your refrigerator. Put it to my channel and play all my videos, of course. You know, that sort of thing to spread the channel. Email every contact you have with my information of my channel and YouTube channel. And I will see you in the next video. Let me make sure I got this right. Okay, yes. Bye.